Peace on left, justice on the right. Peace on left, justice on the right. This is America. This is the reason Kaepernick was taking a knee.
Heartbroken when I saw that video. I almost couldn't finish it.
We got to start making changes.
There's a virus in police departments across this country.
Cops arrest.
Good cops know who these bad cops are.
You have every right to be angry.
Can you tell me why? Every time I step outside, I see my die.
You have no right to perpetrate violence on the very communities that you are standing up for.
A lot of people have been using my father's words.
That all men are created equal.
The only pathway to do this is through nonviolent means.
I'm letting you know that it ain't no gun that can kill my soul.
We will bring you justice, I promise.
But if God got us, then we gon' be all right.
Start making some changes.
Peace, light, love, and liberation to you all. Welcome to Real Talk with Kasim. We are back. We are back. We ain't back. Not that we back. We have returned. Today is going to be very, very interesting and informational. Peace and blessings to the Queen Tamara, my cousin, my granddaughter Jada. Peace and blessings to brother Joshua Green. Hey nephew, what's going on to you all? In lieu of everything that's been going on, me myself, you know, I'm being trained in a sense of not to become so emotional at everything that happens within inside the confinements of the media. But you know, nowadays it's hard. More so now for me than ever, being that, you know, we are targeted every time you come up. There's always something pertaining to us folk. But let me say this too as well. Welcome you all to Real Talk with Kasim.
Welcome to Real Talk with Kasim.
Let's push things forward.
Hey, the show that aspires to inspire before we expire.
Let's push things forward.
That's right. The show that aspires to inspire before we expire. We got brother Greg Nelson, the King, is in the building. Peace and blessing to you, brother, as well. Listen, our topic. Assalamu alaikum. The brother said, brother Tariq, I haven't spoke to you in a while, brother. Brother said, Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, wa alaikum assalam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shalom to everyone. Peace and blessings. Ungawa. God bless. Hotep. Peace, light, love, and liberation to you all. All right, tonight's topic is free speech free? And I thought of some individuals who've been on the show before, but these articulate individuals, and they have their own perception of things of this nature, of these, you know, shows of this title, of these titles. And I specifically got the Queen, Lisa Davis, with us. I got the Queen with us.
A little applause. I like that.
We got the Queen with us. Peace, Sister Black Power. How you feeling?
Peace and Black Power. Yes.
And we also got the brother. And Sister Lee is by way of Newark, New Jersey. Sister has a lot of information, but I like her. I've been watching her her posts and everything, and her information regarding in particularly now the Kanye West thing, of course, with the Yeezy as well. But the Kanye West thing, Kanye West, Kyrie Irving has blown me over. So I had to reach out to my cousin, and that's brother, soon to be Dr. Marvin Walker.
Hey, what's going on, bro? Sister, what's good?
Hello there. How are you?
How are you? Good, good. Hope everybody is well.
Yes.
And peace and blessings to my brother Akbar as well. And then I had to go across that water and reach out to our brother from New York. Brother has a spin when it comes to information like this. He gives it from a whole different perspective. And I like different perspectives to come together so that way everybody can see things from their own perspective, not one thing. So with that, I had to go across the water. I had to reach out to bro. Q. Before this, I want to start it out, if I may. I would like to ask, matter of fact, should I show this Kyrie clip first? How do you feel?
Sure.
Which one? I mean, he did a couple as of.
No, I didn't want to go crazy with him because I wanted to be more or less speak with you all. Yeah, let me go into this. And we'll take it from there. If it's all right with you all to start off with Kyrie, can we do that?
Yes,
Absolutely.
I think that's
Absolutely.
great.
All right, Marv, how about you? Is that cool?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Start there.
Let me go into that. Oh, wait.
Week of hindsight, are you sorry for the hurt that your posts caused people?
I take my responsibility
There
for
you go,
posting
Henry.
that. Some things that were questionable in there, untrue. Like I said, in the first time you guys asked me when I was sitting on that stage, I don't believe everything that everybody posts. It's a documentary. So I take my responsibility.
It seems like Adam Silver wanted to hear the word "I apologize," or in your mind, you said, "I didn't mean to cause any harm." Were you apologizing, or did you not?
I didn't mean to cause any harm. I'm not the one that made the documentary.
What are the specific things in the documentary that you don't believe are true and that you don't believe represent your morals?
I think some of the criticism of the Jewish faith in the community, for sure. Some points made in there that were unfortunate.
Kyrie, are you surprised that you did hurt people?
Surprised that I did hurt people?
Are you surprised that reaction and some of the things that you did hurt people?
Yeah, I think I can ask a better question. It's just, where were you when I was a kid, figuring out that 300 million of my ancestors are buried in America? Where were you guys asking those same questions when I was a kid learning about the traumatic events of my familial history and what I'm proud to come from and why I'm proud to stand here and why when I repeat myself that I'm not going to stand down, it has nothing to do with dismissing any other race or group of people. I'm just proud of my heritage and what we've been through. And the fact that this has pinned me against the Jewish community. And I'm here answering questions of whether or not I'm sorry or not on something I didn't create. And it was something I shared. And I'm telling everybody I'm taking responsibility. Then that's where I sit. So, these same questions that you guys ask, me dealing with it as being a melanated, pigmented person all around the world and dealing with racial biases against my skin color, demeaning me because of my religious beliefs. And I'm still sitting in the seat standing. So I take my full responsibility. Again, I'll repeat it, for posting something on my Instagram or Twitter that may have had some unfortunate falsehoods in it. But I also am a human being that's 30 years old, and I've been growing up in a country that's told me that I wasn't worth anything. And I came from a slave class. And I come from a people that are meant to be treated the way we get treated every day. So I'm not here to compare anyone's atrocities or tragic events that their families have dealt with generations of time. I'm just here to continue to expose things that our world continues to put in darkness.
With that, brothers. Brother Marv, come on, brother.
I mean, what is there a question related
Yeah,
to
the question would be, how do you feel about the way they're doing them pertaining to a tweet that he put? A tweet.
Well, I mean, I don't find it surprising. I mean, it's not like the new thing of treating black folks in this hemisphere. I mean, that's kind of like par for the course. And I saw the document sent out by the commissioner where they want him to go through these 6 things, pay $50,000, spend some time with some anti-Semitic folks, the problematic ADL and some of the other stuff. I mean, he did. I'm assuming I've never I can't comment on the video or the book version because I've never seen it, so I don't know what's in there that they would pertain to as anti-Semitic. But what I do know is that there are a lot of people that are criticizing him and talking about it that haven't even looked at the video to see. So as usual, we're picking up on any message that the media sends out and what's trending, and just simply follow it without analysis. If by his intention, he said, look, there were some things in there that were problematic, all he did was post it. He said there were some things that he thought were problematic, and I think that's all he has to do. He said, I take responsibility for the things that I found problematic in the video. That's all he should be. That's all he has to do. There's nothing else that he had. In fact, he didn't have to do that. But I'm just saying that that's what he chose to do. That's all he had to do.
So with them giving him all these things, the extra steps that they tell him to do, ain't that overboard?
You know, what it reminds me of is the scene in the original Roots where they have, you know, trying to they're beating Kunta and saying your name is Toby. So that's kind of like the extra step. And then you see the slaves that are surrounding the plantation. That's an example for everybody else. If you think about doing this, then this is what you are going to get. And so that's where I see that coming from. And of course, the young brother is not going to respond to that. I don't see him doing any of that, which I applaud him for not. He already said it was problematic. Some things in there were problematic, maybe some untrue statements. I didn't see the video. And he takes responsibility. What else can you ask of him? That's it.
Sister Lisa.
I stand 100% behind our young brother, Kyrie Irving. I'm sorry. His name just went out of my head. I apologize about that. I've been writing about him all day. I stand completely behind him. I agree with Brother Marvin said. He said, he didn't throw anybody under the bus. I'm sure that there was probably somebody who told him, hey man, you got to see this video or whatever. But he just reposted it that's on Amazon. Amazon is making loads of money from this. The ADL, neither the ADL nor the NBA nor Nike has any problem with that at all. But he said, like our brother said, he said, oh, there were some things in there that were problematic. I take responsibility for that, and I didn't mean to hurt anybody, and I believe him. I wanted to see the video based on who he is, and I knew I was going to really be getting involved in this. I just wanted to understand it as much as I could. It is a very long documentary. It's about 3 hours and something. I'm 2 hours into it, but I can tell you right now, and I know I know the issue that was alluded to, and I can understand people being upset about that because it's only about a second. I'm not even excusing that, but there is something that flashes up on the screen indicating that the Holocaust is false or that 6 million people were not killed. I don't even know why it's in the video because the documentary is not even based around that, but still it's in there. And I can easily believe it is something that is not vocalized. It flashes up on the screen. So I can easily believe how somebody could miss that, especially if you're not, it's a very long documentary. I can believe that Kyrie probably didn't even see that part, he's skimming through or whatever, but he acknowledged, he said, I take responsibility for that. And I think that that was very strong of him to recognize, okay, I disagree with that. He didn't make excuses about it, but they want to break him. They want him hobnobbing and jumping around. That's what they want to do to him, and it is quite evident that that is what they want to do. I stand with this young man. I've looked at other things on his other of his social media posts. He is somebody with integrity. He posted something, I think, in October, and he happens to be part Indigenous as well. His mother is, part Indigenous. And he posted something celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day and saying that I want all of our cultures to be acknowledged and celebrated. He spoke out against what was going on in Palestine, and that's a no-no. So I feel they were really coming from, not to mention the stance he took pertaining to the jabs. I'm going to say jabs because I know Facebook and all these places are censoring people, but he stood up and he stood to lose quite a bit of money from that. I'm not exactly sure of the final outcome, but I know that he took stances against that. So evidently, he's not about the money. He's not about that. And he shows such integrity. But also after, I'm 2 hours into this. I'm 2 hours into this documentary, and I cannot see any other references that is condescending or putting down the Jewish faith. It talks about Islam and what happened in the Arab world, Christianity. It does talk about the racism, which we have the right to talk about that. We have the right to talk about that as openly as we want to. And if Jewish people participated in that, we have the right to talk about that too. And if people believe that Black people were the original tribes of Israel, and that is not even my faith, so that's not even a belief I subscribe to, but we have the right to say that. And I think a lot of this is, I think a lot of what people find offensive in that video is the fact that it does clearly state that African people, Black people were the original tribe. But it's really, it's more like an anthropological study of the people who lived during those times, biblical times and in Africa. So I just wanted to say that.
You know what bothers me about it? Because I'm 167 into it. And what happens is the United States government gives Israel over $1 billion a year for a Holocaust that didn't happen on this land. But us Black folk have been going through a Holocaust ever since. And when a brother like Kyrie makes a tweet, if I get information right now about a Pacific book or documentary or something, and I'm like, whoa. Like, for example, I went to a class with Brother Daviat, and I was so excited with this information that I'm hearing for the first time. I start calling everybody and like, yo, you got to come to this class. You know what I mean? I got some paperwork, some notes I want you to see. And because the brother did that, they're trying to shake him of everything, which lets me know it's deeper than that.
Yeah.
And if the information in that book was that much of a threat to a certain collective group of people, then that means some people need to start looking into this information. But I know it's deeper than that. And that's why I'm asked Brother Q, how do you feel about it, brother?
I mean, one, thanks for having me on. When it comes to, we're talking about Kyrie, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Ye or Kanye West as well, because he was like kind of the first one at this juncture to kind of pop this all off. And for him in particular, it was personal. He was speaking to specific individuals in the specific industries that he was in, and they labeled him anti-Semitic as well. Did he go about it the right way? That's to be debated, but nonetheless, he did come up with, some valid information, as did Kyrie. I think when people are talking about anti-Semitism or being anti-Semitic, the individuals who are labeling individuals anti-Semitic, they know for in fact that they are not Semitic. That's what people have to understand. They call themselves Ashkenaz. And when you go into Ashkenaz, those are Eastern European Jewish individuals. And they're coming from places like Lithuania, Poland, all those extends. So that's where they're coming from. So people have to understand that they're not saying that they're Semitic. They're going by, and I haven't seen this or heard this in anyone's thread or talk. They're going by a gentleman by the name of Wilhelm Marr. Wilhelm Marr is the first individual on their side to coin that term anti-Semitic. And what he did was, and this was in 1879, what he did was he took a group of people who were in Eastern Europe, and they were being classified by their religion, What he wanted to do was create a race. So instead of them being looked at as solely as a religion, he made them a race. In that same year, he formed something called the Anti-Semitic League. So the definitions that they're going by is the Wilhelm Marr definition. And that's why these brothers and sisters who are oftentimes labeled anti-Semitic, they're using his term. And that's what people really have to understand, because if they're Ashkenazic, you would have to then go to, and they say that they have a 4,000-year history. You would have to go back into scripture, which would be Genesis. It'd be chapter 10, verses 1 through 3. And what that does is it gives you a genealogy of Noah. Noah has 3 sons. The youngest, of course, is Shem or Sem. The next one would be Ham, and the next one would be Japheth. Ashkenaz comes from the Japhetic line, does not come from the Shemitic line. So they know this. So they must be persecuting these individuals on something else. And that something else is the Wilhelm Marr definition. And that's what a lot of people, so that's why I said there's no reason for Kyrie Irving or anyone to apologize at all. You know, I can speak to somebody from the ADL and that'll be it, because they know that they're not those people, but that's not the argument that they're making.
And just pertaining to the demands coming from the head of the NBA, I so disagree with that. I disagree with that completely. I think that's ridiculous. Kyrie owes them nothing. He owes them nothing. From what I understand, he tried to make a contribution. Yeah, that part I disagree with. He's under a lot of pressure, and I can't speak for him. But he didn't have to do that, and he owes them nothing. And also, the NBA, they got to deal with Amazon. Now, you can't sit up here and tell me that Kyrie's anti-Semitic, and yet it's okay with Amazon to be selling this video. Amazon, he posted it from Amazon. Amazon has been selling it, and now it's one of the #1 selling books and videos. Now, maybe before Amazon could have said, well, we didn't know that part was in there, the part that I referenced to you, but they know now. And they're still selling it, and the ADL has no problem with that. The NBA doesn't. Also, the NBA is in bed with Amazon. They did a deal with them. They signed a deal where where Amazon is going to be able to live stream basketball in Brazil. Also, the documentary or the promotion for the documentary has been up on Facebook since 2018. This is definitely about them trying to break this. And it's not even about being anti-Semitic. Or if it is, they give a far worse message, because basically it's like it goes to the highest bidder. You're if you can make a profit from it, we ain't got a problem with you. And especially if you're white. That's basically what it's saying, which is a far worse message, period, to be given to anybody. But that's what they're giving. You know, that they're for sale, the ADL, you know, it's just a reflection of just how demoralizing these times are, and even about capitalism and all of that kind of stuff. You know, people sell their souls and their everything, you know, for that dollar. But of course, when you can take down a black man, you cannot have a black man, an independent thinker who's for his people, who's an athlete. Really, they don't want independent black thinkers, period. I shouldn't even use the word independent black thinkers. I'm going to say revolutionary black thinkers. They don't want that at all.
And I stand to be corrected. Sister Michelle Cuzzo, rather, corrected me. She said, incorrect. The U.S. hasn't paid reparations to Israel for the Holocaust. They give foreign military aid that goes into the billions. Too much, yes. Should the U.S. pay reparations for slavery? Absolutely. The money the U.S. pays to Israel is not that.
Yeah,
but I will say that
that point,
U.S. has paid into reparations funds for Israel, though. They have done that.
Go ahead, brother Q.
No, just to that point, they do give aid, but this is the interesting part to that statement when it says, should the U.S. pay reparations for slavery? Absolutely, they should, but it becomes like, who could you give that to? Because and that's the issue that we're going through right now. when you go, what you see with Kyrie in particular, he talks about his indigenous culture, and then he also brings in slavery. And the slave narrative is a little difficult in this sense. There was a movie that came out, right? And it was based on the Dahomey tribe. And if it were Caucasians depicted in that movie, people would have a problem with it. But that particular group of individuals, they were slave traders and they looked like you and I. So they were bringing people over here to the Americas, which later became the United States. So then if you have those individuals that are coming over from the continent here into the Americas, and then you have individuals that look like you and I in the Americas as well, who are truly American, then you have the European who comes over here, who is not Caucasian, but individuals that look like you and I. It becomes, now that we're all here, how do you divvy that up? That's the issue. And that's why, so when people say, why can't we as a people come together? The reason why is because of everything that I just said. You have people that are coming from the continent that were in chains. You have Europeans who were bringing those people over in chains that look just like them. And then you have indigenous people here that were never enslaved. So we all look the same. That's why it's so difficult. And when you look at things that are going on with Kyrie in particular, again, these European Jewish claiming Ashkenaz, these individuals are making movies. And these movies are depicting individuals that look like you and I as Caucasians. So when you have a story of slavery and it's exclusively given to a group of people that look like you and I, of course you're going to be somewhat rebellious. You're going to have anger. Your tone is going to go up octaves, because when you're reading certain books and you start putting pieces together, what you begin to find out is like, wait a minute, they lied to me. I was not just a slave. Some of us were here free. Some of us didn't come over here like that. So this is the energy that you're feeling right now. When you have, Hollywood making movies where you have Egyptians as Caucasians.
Thank you.
When you know for a fact that they're not, and you could go in the history books and figure that out. When the Phoenicians, the Canaanites, same people, they formed Rome, right? It was the Carthaginians and the Etruscans that founded Rome. Romans look like you and I. So when you're not given an accurate depiction of how people look, you're bringing them down, you're devaluing them, you're dehumanizing them.
Yeah.
So if you want Kyrie to apologize because he may have said some disparaging things, and people claim that he was dehumanizing, people that look like you and I have been dehumanized by Hollywood. We've been dehumanized by the music that is run by these Ashkenazic European, Eastern European, Jewish individuals. If they're not made to apologize, then it's going to be a standoff.
Exactly. You bring up a very interesting point.
Hold
yes,
on.
it'll be the Ten Commandments.
Hold
Take
on,
that
listen.
crap off.
Yeah.
Take every biblical story that was ever, not just the biblical stories, take every story off that was supposed to be historic, made about anything, because you know that so many lies were told about us. So take the Ten Commandments off. Don't ever show that again. Hollywood owes us for that. Take off, I know they've done movies about Easter. You got Cleopatra and all that crap, and all the movies about Egypt, and take them off. Take them off now.
So with them teaching our children that Christopher Columbus discovered America, should they apologize for that?
So that's an interesting thing too. So when it comes to Christopher Columbus discovering America, it's not as simple as everyone makes it. It's codified language. And that's another thing. Like if we're gonna really get into these like real discussions and get into the meat of things and really understand how this thing is operating, I'm here to tell you straight up and down, Christopher Columbus did discover America, but what they're saying in the codified language is that it's the doctrine of discovery. That's what it is. So when he comes over here from Europe, he's a Morisco Jew. He comes over to the United States, and what he's doing, well, the Americas. Then what happens is it's a charter, and that charter, once you start to trace it, it's the Papal Bull of 1452. Then it goes into the Discovery Doctrine, or the Doctrine Discovery. Once you go into that, then it goes into Johnson versus McIntosh. All of that, they're not looking. People always say, well, how can you discover a land when the people are already there? It's easy when you don't consider them people. That's how you discover the land.
According to to what the colonizer says.
And the colonizer is the European.
Right. And they determine what's legal and all that kind of stuff they want to make legal so they can steal things. But there were people who were here, and this land was not even called the Americas. I know we're not in disagreement, but I'm just emphasizing things. Yep. It wasn't even called the Americas, but because they have the freaking power through the gun to write up anything they want to and call it legal, I'll say that this is fact, which is what they do with science all the time. Their concept of science, that's what they do. But I'm so glad that people today are rising up against that and saying, no way. And I just want to also just say, in terms of what was done through the Bible, and this is not an attack on anybody's religion per se. I know a lot of people are Christians and all of that, even people who are Muslims, people who are Jewish, but these are just facts in terms of what was done through religion, the Judeo-Christian religion, and or the Abrahamic religions, in terms of putting forth the image of Jesus Christ as having blonde hair and blue eyes. I certainly grew up with that image, although my parents were not like fundamentalists when it came to the church. You're taught that the Jewish people are the chosen people, and the Jewish people that I saw that were put before us were people who had white skin. We're told that you are cursed because of the Hamitic code or something like that, and Ham laughed at his father, and therefore God said you're going to be cursed from generation till generation, and that's used as the justification for everything that was done to us. But this is what my grandmothers were told. My mother was their generations. My generation, thank goodness, began to sort of. I remember the first time I ever heard any concept or thought Black people having a divine place under these religions was through the Nation of Islam. I was a young girl, and I'm like, what? But anyway, that's the first time I heard that. But so I'm fortunate that in my generation, there to be more widespread, and that's what we are still coming up against. So you mean to tell me because Kyrie tweeted something, and like so one of the brothers was saying, we have a right to be angry, we really do, and it's just outrageous. But they really want to break him. They really want to do that. In fact, I have to call out the NBA players because it's really very interesting to me because it goes to show. Like I try to see the world a lot. I'm becoming more and more anti-capitalist. But this is certainly one way to really look at it because these people are capitalists. They got lots of money. People playing for the NBA, some of the retired ball players, they're going to make more money than they ever need to make. They're not even playing basketball, and yet they are owned by the NBA. Shaquille O'Neal came out. He called Kyrie an idiot. I heard him say that. And yet, his movie theater in Newark was the one who premiered the documentary. And yet nobody's coming after Shaquille O'Neal about it. And he has said nothing about that. He didn't apologize. He didn't say, oh my gosh, I misspoke, or we need to have a more in-depth conversation. Nothing like that. Nothing.
Hold on 1 second, sister. Let's go ahead.
Sure.
A big thing out of the word promotion. That is promotion. If on your social media,
can you share it?
You say,
yeah, we can.
Yes.
Here's a link to this. That tells me, hey, you should watch this. Correct? He's got 17 million Instagram followers, another 5 million or so on Twitter. You're all over social media. Do you ever put something out there, Shaq, that does not represent something that you feel?
I was probably one of the first guys on Twitter. And when I realized the power it had, I knew I had to be very responsible. followers, platform, whatever you call it, I knew I had to be responsible. I try to make people happy. I try to make people smile. My formula has always been the same: 60% to make you laugh, 30% to inspire you, and 10% whatever I'm selling. You have to be aware of what you're doing, and you have to be aware that sometimes when you put stuff out, not everybody's gonna like it. Some people are conscious, some people are not. I could tell he's not conscious. He doesn't really care what's going on. But us, I know that the game that we used to love and we promote, it brings people together. And it hurts me sometimes when we have to sit up here to talk about stuff that divides the game. Now we got to answer for what this idiot has done. I stand for equality of all people.
So when you look at stuff like that, I think that those individuals, the Stephen A. Smiths, the Shaquille O'Neals, the Charles Barkleys, and a host of cats that came against all of these young brothers who made stances. You had Colin Kaepernick first. He didn't do anything wrong whatsoever. 3 years later, they wind up having to recant everything that they said. Yet he was still out the league. And I think, like, when it comes to the NBA, it's a travesty because, here you had LeBron James, coming out against Kyrie Irving as well. And he was wearing, the Jackie Robinson hat. Now, I'm not one to ever celebrate Jackie Robinson because, when you think about economics, integration was the worst thing that could ever have happened for people that look like you and I here in the United States, because it only went one way. We as people that look like you and I assimilated into a culture, that's not accepting of who we are. So when I seen LeBron James doing that, when I seen LeBron James on the cover of Forbes magazine and it says King James and then Maverick Carter is CEO, I'm looking at it a little differently. Where you have King James. King James actually is a brother, and then when you start talking about charters and colonists and colonizing the United States or colonizing the Americas and transforming it into the United States, that's the CEO, that's the president, right? So there's so many layers to what's going on right now. I'm just proud that the young brother, because he's only 30 years old and he's making a serious stand. And again, I can't be remiss. I would be remiss if I didn't say, Kanye West, he threw a lot on the table, and everything that he was stated, they did. Who could, you're taking money out of people's bank accounts, telling people that they can't bank here no more. You're severing ties with partnerships. And though he wanted to get out of these deals, that's the talk, and I understand that having been in that business, that particular group of individuals that he was speaking to, like he said, he wasn't speaking to all. They show you that they have power. But what happens is a perception of power. This is what people have to understand. And this is what I used to tell my students, and I don't want to be long-winded with it at all. Like, if you have a manufacturer and you have a consumer, they always say that the so-called black man and woman is the consumer class. But I always used to ask my students this. I said, who has more power, the manufacturer or the consumer? They would debate for a little bit, and they would choose either side. But what people don't understand is it's balanced. Because if I make something, I need somebody to purchase it. If I have cash, I need to spend it, right? So it's exchange for goods and services. And that's what people don't understand. So now just imagine if LeBron James would have tweeted the same thing Kyrie did, or Tatum would have did the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of your leading NBA players would have tweet what Kyrie Irving did. Would they have suspended every one of them? Their economy would have crashed. And that's what people that look like you and I, we don't understand that concept.
Let me say this. Brother Marv.
Yeah.
When I look at Shaq make that statement, of course, I see it as blatant disrespect to be on that type of platform, and then you call your brother idiot. I look at that like that. Was I emotionally upset? Yeah, of course I was. But then again, I had to look at it from a different perspective and say that this is the reality, because this is how we talk to each other. You know what I mean? When something doesn't go right with another brother, I done seen brothers come up, peace, how you doing? This, that, and the third. As soon as the brother leave, man, that nigga ain't, well, this ain't that. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like that's a reality for us. Unfortunately, it had to be someone of his magnitude, far as his celebrity, to do something like that to another brother who basically didn't do nothing. How you feel about, you understand what I'm saying, Mark?
Oh, I want to, before, I mean, that I think that folks who perform and live and are in that social structure are going to do social structure things on those particular platforms. You know, they don't twist anyone's arm to say those particular things. They know who to put in front of the camera. That's just from the start. I don't have to tell you, they pick certain people to put in front of the camera, but I wanted to kind of go back. Here's the thing where a couple of things where I think we kind of where we go wrong in terms of these particular discussions is that look, white supremacy, whether it appears in the form of those who classify themselves as Jews, Italians, or whatever they classify themselves as, white supremacy is white supremacy. When we call out a specific oppressor as if that's the only oppressor of our particular people, then I think we set ourselves up for discussions that, number one, we don't even need to be having. And number two, some of the stuff that we discuss on these public lines, you know, are, first of all, sometimes, like whether it be Kanye or Kyrie, in a lot of instances, they don't even have a command of typically what they're putting out there. Kanye West, I'm not caping for Kanye. I'm not caping for Kanye West. And, you know, he said some anti-Semitic things based on the definition, as you mentioned before, that we call it. I mean, he said some things that haven't even been put out that are ultimately coming out. But I have a problem with the fact that we get mad. We don't get mad when folks say that look like us or anybody says anti-black stuff.
Thank you very much. Because Kanye,
we let them. We have this thing, and I think it was Bobby Wright that used to say that we're the most free people in the world because we'll ultimately accept anything that anybody says about us without any pushback and embrace anyone regardless of how far they go. And my thing is that he went far enough when he said slavery was a choice and all the other things that he ultimately said. So I could ultimately never cape for him. But in terms of Kyrie, I say that he put out a video. He said, about the things that are in the particular video. I say he apologized for that, and I think that's all he has to do. I don't think he has to do much of anything else, because Jews, Gentiles, what have you, control Hollywood and the images that are ultimately put out there about us. We don't do a great job in terms of the images put out there by folks who ultimately get in these positions and look like us. So my problem is that we let certain people off the hook, and we never get to really have a conversation about what's really going on in that particular land of Israel as it pertains to Palestinians, is because we keep getting caught up in whether somebody is or isn't an anti-Semite in terms of that. So it keeps real conversations between blacks and Jews off of the table, and we never get to those conversations of or the state of Israel and how it's oppressing and has been oppressing Palestinians. So we never really get to that. And so these particular discussions that go on, now I'm talking about here and wherever else, never really gets to the meat of the situation. I put folks in categories. either you are an oppressor of the people, or you are a liberator. And that goes across the board for me in terms of folks who look like us,
I agree.
who play the role of the oppressors, but don't really have any, they don't have any power. Their power is in the fact that they cape for the oppressor. That's their only power, whether it be Shaq, whether it's Charles Barkley. But I don't get mad because I don't expect them to do anything else. They're bought and they're ultimately paid by those very people. So I'm like, what do you expect them to do when you put a microphone in front of them on the platforms that are ultimately controlled by the very people who oppress us, who exploit the capitalists, who exploit the labor of those particular players? I just don't expect anything else. But I do say that there has to be a conversation in terms of this relationship with Black folks and Jewish folks, because they're not the only folks, and it's not all of them, who oppress Black people. And that becomes my thing when you pick one group of oppressors, it becomes a distraction, because they take that one and then they say, oh, then you're targeting us, and we never get to have the full conversation in regards to the levels of oppression that ultimately Black folks face. And getting back to the reparations argument, see, the funny thing is that we complain about Kaepernick, but I saw a whole bunch of Negroes still walking around, watching football, right? Wearing jerseys and doing all those particular things. So at some point, we got to put our money where our mouth is. And if we're really going to be about that life, whatever it is in this capitalist system, folks are typically going to do what they do to gain their money. I just think that, go ahead. No, I'm finished. I'm wrapping up. I just think at some point we need to deal with all levels of oppression that take place against Black people. And I would say that Jewish folks in Hollywood aren't the only people who are ultimately oppressing us in terms of images that are put out there in Hollywood. And so I'll stop there.
So there was a couple of things, that I definitely, there's some things that I agree with you on. Right. In the discussion that you were having, I think that it is necessary. I think it's very difficult at times because it's so nuanced. Like when you were speaking, right? You said Black, and then you said Israel. So now when a lot of times when we're talking, we'll say like just by program, we'll say like, yo, I'm Black and I'm Puerto Rican. I'm Black and I'm this, right? But when you're dealing with that social construct, those 5 races that they speak of is Black, white, red, brown, and yellow. No one ever speaks about the yellow man. Everyone, they may say the red man, but all you hear is Black, white, and brown in particular, just to that point.
Right.
When you was talking about Colin Kaepernick, and then you said that there were people walking around, and it was like, yo, not a care in the world. They were still watching football and things of that nature.
Right.
And you said something about Kanye West making that statement that slavery was a choice. He wasn't talking about this, but this is what he was talking about. Like at some point, what people got to understand is like, I have a job, I get a check, but at some point my check ends. In legal terms, that's indentured servitude, right? So now when we're talking about Colin Kaepernick and people still watching television and things of that nature, that's a choice that people are making to stay in this condition. Like, I get very specific. I'll tell anybody in a heartbeat. In the music industry, I rail against one dude. His name is Leor Cohen. I do it for a reason. That dude is head of global music for YouTube.
Right.
Children that look like you and I, they go to that channel or that platform and they watch all type of debauchery. This man has been doing it since he was at Def Jam. He did it when he was with 100. So we have to be very specific, just like they're doing with these young men.
Right.
Kanye, you did this. Kyrie, you did this. You know, Muhammad Ali, you did this. Farrakhan, you did this.
Right.
We don't ever, people that look like you and I, don't ever get specific. Like, yo, when they say like the Jews invented Hollywood, yes, the Jews invented Hollywood. There's a book that they have. It's called An Empire of Their Own.
Yeah, by Neil Gabler.
May I say something?
Go ahead, sis.
No, go ahead, sis. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, and I'm going to be very clear about this because not that you all don't, but I like to do a lot of research when I do decide to get into somebody and find out who they are and where they're coming from. And I just have to say this: I agree with what you're saying about Kanye or anybody who acts like that, because he has said a lot of anti-Black things. He has spoken against Kwanzaa, said he prefers for his children to celebrate Hanukkah. Now, that's what he prefers. That's what he prefers. But then he's got to put down Kwanzaa, called it trash, called it garbage. The last time before they came after him, he was capping for and speaking on behalf of oppressed white men. Every time he uses his platform, he has said so many statements that are anti. He sided with the officer who killed George Floyd. I mean, if you're going to sit up there and talk fentanyl, the fentanyl's probably what killed him. You're siding with the beast officers who protected George Floyd, and everything that he said in terms of code, it's going toward that side. It's going toward the capitalists. It's going toward that system that he wants to be in. So somebody like that, I ain't capping for them at all. I'm just like, whatever they do to them, they do to them. I don't know, because I didn't even follow in terms of the conversation that Jewish people were having around something that he said. But I thought that Black people, I thought we should have the power to be able to handle our own, and we didn't have that power because we should have been able to say to him and make him understand, you better show some act right. You bet, because he could say other things. He could say other things in a different way, but this is what he chose. And he never used his platform to speak out against Breonna Taylor. Like when he put on that, White Lives Matter t-shirt, but Breonna Taylor has got no justice. Tamir Rice has got no justice. You have a powerful platform that you could use it to be about, and he chose not to do that, but that's his choice. So I do agree with what you just said there. And I will also say so many other conversations came up, and I'm like, or topics that we could do a whole show around that, like what you were just talking about with baseball and Jackie Robinson and the Negro Leagues and all that. So I just want to say that, and also with the issue of reparations, my attitude is we are Africans and we are owed. Whether we landed on this continent, whether we landed in Haiti, whether we landed wherever, we are owed. And in terms of the way U.S. imperialism works or colonialism, they've stolen so much land from other people. And one of the ways that I talk, this speaking to some of the issues that you both were raising, like in terms of the specifics and the nuances when we talk about issues with race and everything. That's why I like to use the word colonialism, because it gets into the system and the system of those who want to play the white power game, because that's what these people will do. You have, I've known a lot of people who are Jewish who are racist, and I know a lot of them who are not, but those who want to step into that white power paradigm, they come over here and that's what they want to do because, that's the way they're choosing to go.
Is there enough?
Real quick, I want to leave your audience with this too. So when I said it was nuanced, it's very nuanced. The 1828 definition of an American, this tells a whole lot. This tells a whole lot about this particular landmass. This is the definition. I'm going to read it to you. American, a native of America, semicolon, originally applied to the aboriginals, comma, or copper-colored races, comma, found here by the Europeans, semicolon, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. So you got a lot of stuff going on here. You got a bunch of individuals who are copper-colored that look like you and I. You got Europeans who, whenever I'm listening to anybody speak, they speak about these Europeans and they believe them to be Caucasian. Caucasian is made synonymous with European, and they are not. When you go into the definition, the legal definition of free white persons in 1870, right? So now this is what people were called in 1870. 1865, 1863 is when people were supposed to be emancipated. So you got 5 years after the fact, people that look like you and I, this is what they're called, free white persons. Who are they? All European Jews. We already know who they are. The Basque, Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal, right? It does not mean Caucasian race. So now we're not talking about Caucasians. So now when you're going through the history books and people are talking about the white man colonized this place and created these systems, the white man is not Caucasian. The white man is European, because Europa was a Canaanite, Phoenician princess. She was dark. See, that's why, again, it doesn't surprise me when I see a Shaquille O'Neal talking, or like what Barkley or any other of these people, because they have the mentality of the European who looks exactly like them. See, we keep thinking that these Caucasians. Let me tell you something. I had Jewish people help me when I was younger. I had Irish cats that helped me when I was younger. Like, you would have to be a stone cold idiot to make a blanketed statement about these Caucasians doing all these things when them Caucasians wearing chains to people that look like you and I as well. That's the problem. We've all been fed a bill of goods and we don't do enough research.
Well, here's the thing. I want to say to that is that I see you quoting, there's a difference between exact definitions and how they apply in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So you could give me these particular definitions, but I'm talking about what's applicable to pretty much in regards to the real world. And we again, as I say, we're having a discussion here, right? And all of the stuff that we're talking about, whether or not the Israelis are black or white or whatever we're calling them, or who was the original Jews, the interesting thing is that you can go around the world and you see that in terms of the social situation, you find folk that look like us on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
We like I said, we're battling over stuff that doesn't shift the paradigm in regards to power. So you mentioned that Kanye pointed something out. What the hell does that mean? He has no power. What I'm saying is that you're talking about pointing out specific people, but right. That's what I'm saying is that that's all fine. That's all fine and dandy. But I said before, we had no problem when he was shitting on us, as if that becomes my issue, is that there's all of these contradictions that run at the same time within our culture. You have all these. What I'm saying is this: you have all these particular strands of stuff. We have no power, brother. I mean, and we really have no power, which is ultimately the problem. We're playing basketball in a realm that's controlled by someone else. The brother said a couple of things. They pretty much, for the most part, shut his ass down.
No, but the question becomes, see, that's the thing. See, I answered the question as to why. We're talking about Kyrie Irving. Why were they able to shut him down? You got guys that make up the majority of a league. They make up the majority, over 80% of these guys running up and down a basketball court. They're not Caucasian. And they're begging Caucasians to be owners of something? Whose fault is that? That's not the Caucasians' problem. That's people that look like you and I. Why is that a problem?
That stems from this 400-year history of being colonized. Having our minds.
If you put all of them individuals' money together,
they could buy the league.
Hold on.
No, they couldn't, because let me say this. No, they couldn't.
That's it,
and the reason why they couldn't is simply because all of that money that you're talking about ain't a lot of money when it comes to, and owners still have to vote in regards to who is all. Yeah, owners you can't. It's not just about money. Owners get to vote as to who's in And
Listen,
ultimately,
wait, real quick.
who's
Real
out
quick.
of the particular league?
Real quick. I'm gonna give you a little history on me. One, I helped to create the And One mixtape. I actually sat as a consultant in the National Basketball Association.
Right.
I know exactly how this money is made. These cats could step away from that league and they could create their own. The way the money is generated in the NBA is off of ticket sales, off of television rights, which would be your ABC, which would be your TNT and your ESPN. It
Right.
also comes from merchandising. So
Right.
there's no way in the world that these individuals, and again, I was with the And One mixtape stuff, there's
got
no
you.
way in the world that these dudes cannot step off and create their own situation.
So I'll ask you a simple question. No,
All right, but my thing is this though: when you
Well,
get,
no, wait, first let me ask you a quick, simple question. Where they gonna play?
But here's the thing.
No, that's what I'm saying. Where they gonna play?
I'm gonna give you the answer.
Right, go ahead.
All you got to do is go to college gymnasiums. You could go to the gymnasiums that will soon be. Hold on. You can go to the arenas that will be empty. You can play in them because at the end of the day, if you have individuals, remember ESPN and all of them, they're tied together.
Right.
You don't think that they would start to negotiate with individuals because they'll collapse. They'll collapse. You saw it during COVID. You saw it during COVID.
But do you see that
basketball players from the league?
I gave the answer.
Right.
Well, like so do you see it from a standpoint as if everyone put their money together, right? So they all put their money together and they decided to step outside the realm and create their own, right? When they create their own, they will have to find situations, and it says like Marv said, where they're gonna play at. And for those who want to see it, how would they be able to get it televised by the same people who are pressing us that we're trying to get away from is the ones who own the media? You know what I mean? Who owns the NBCs, the ABCs? That's just what I'm asking because I hear a lot of it.
Let me just say this.
I'm gonna let you all speak. I let you all speak. I ain't say one word, not one word. So just let me say this. Then I'll let you all speak. And our conclusion, because after this we on our way out because I try to stick within the time frame. And this is very. I love this because this will make people want to come back. So my question is, if you get all the people together and you put their money together, and you say, you know what, right, we're going to start our own. You need a gymnasium, which I'm sure you could buy a gymnasium. I'm sure they have enough money to buy a gymnasium and to stand there, right? Okay. How do you get it broadcasted to all those who want to see? Because the same people, like say for example, the powers that be say to Zuckerberg, you know, when we're not gonna allow you to show it on YouTube. You're not gonna be able to show it on all the streaming platforms. They shut it down. How do you get to that point? Because everybody's talking. The first thing everybody's saying is, well, they need to put their money together and start their own. A lot of people saying that, but is it really that simple? Because, like you said, then you start negotiating with the very same people who you were getting away from the beginning. You understand what I'm saying?
No,
I'm
I
not saying
understand.
nobody's wrong. Just what I'm asking.
I'll let the sister speak because I know she
I
wants
just want to say this much because there's an interesting thing about power. There's perceived power, and then there's actual power. And power is not always just about money. In fact, we're seeing right now, power and money are not synonymous because we have these people who do have money. They got more money than I have, that's for sure, than you and I have collectively. They got quite a bit of money, but they don't have any power because psychologically it's not there. If you took 20 Major League Basketball players who were to stand up and say, look, we don't like this, and if you do this, we'll walk off the court. You're treating him wrong. It's not fair. I'm going to tell you right now, the NBA would listen. I remembered when they were talking about a boycott around the time when George Floyd was murdered, and the NBA, they were talking about a boycott. Who did they get to come in there to talk to them? Barack Obama.
Hey, sister, let me see. God, hey, look,
Your
let me ask you this, Q. Let me say this.
Keith Dennis said something dope. Your boy Keith Dennis said
Yeah,
Byron
he
Allen.
said, he said right. He said Byron Allen can help figure that out.
Easy.
Right. I lost my train of thought when you just cut me. I just lost my train of thought. All right, but look, in our conclusion, because we have to shut this show down. We gotta shut it down. I lost my train of thought. I apologize, but I want to come back to this on a different level because we got so stuck into Kyrie, LeBron, Ye that we actually forgot to talk about is freedom of speech free. So on our way going out,
No.
on our way
For us, it's free.
this is what I want us to do. On our way going out.
It's not free. In
No,
the Most
listen,
High
hold
God,
on, Q. Everybody on their way out. This is the question I want everybody to answer. Is freedom of speech free? Go ahead, brother Q.
no. I mean, in the Most High God, it would be free. But we're talking about freedom from the standpoint of Constitution. So if somebody is giving you something that they call a right, it's not a right, it's a privilege. The only rights that you have are given to you by the Most High God. So when we're talking about freedom of speech, we're talking about it from the position of the Constitution of the United States. And if it's in the Constitution of the United States, it's a privilege, it's not a right, because that's why we're asking the question. Anytime you got to ask that question, it's not free, it's a privilege disguised by the word right.
Sister Lisa?
Hell no, it's not free. Nothing has ever been free for Black people, African people. Ain't nothing free.
You're breaking up,
Colonial
sister.
system for us. What we want us to know, the Black liberation struggle is the only thing that has ever advanced any movement with us. And the Black liberation struggle came in many iterations. You know, I'm not going to even get
Sister, you're breaking in and out. You're coming in and out.
the Kings and Malcolms and all have ever achieved anything. That's the only way. We have always been our own liberators. That's what ended chattel slavery. So that's what we got to stick to. And then we will be free.
Brother Marv.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, before we start talking about getting our money right, we need to get our mind right. And we're not to the point where we're organized enough to do any of the things that we think are ultimately easy to do. We ain't there. We are not listen, we're still trying to define ourselves as what the hell are we? And so as long as we're we could now, you mentioned something about definitions. We could say that whiteness means like nothing and what the technical definition of it is. But you know what? White folks on this concept of whiteness, which we understand does not exist, have come together in regards to cross-class lines to ultimately solidify their particular position in this particular land, even if most of them don't benefit from it. It's an artificial term that ultimately an artificial term that where those who are poor whites get a psychological edge from the particular definition. Is freedom free? No. And no, it's about organization, it's about struggle, and it's not something that's just going to take place in this land. What did the work, what moved us during the civil rights movement was not just what folks were doing on the ground, it was the international pressure.
That was
From
the worst
all
thing
over it was international pressure that ultimately moved the needle along with our particular struggles. So my thing is we need to align ourselves with all oppressed people around the globe, but first we need to get ourselves together right here.
Being that I know and understand that.
It ain't free. Hell no.
Being know and understand that I know that common sense is not even common anymore.
Nah.
Absolutely freedom of speech is not. And like brother, you all said something to the point. And when we dealing with freedom of speech, like your brother said, that's coming from a constitution that was not even meant for us, then absolutely not. It was not. There's no freedom of speech. Because as you see, when I was on here and we was discussing, you two themselves is the ones who put this up. You know what I mean? They interjected and they put this up themselves on this guy's Facebook user. So they're tuning into the discussion as well. And at any given second, if I say or any one of you say something that goes against what it is that they feel that needs to be said, guess what? This show is gonna be red flag and it's over with. And they're gonna send me a letter that's saying you got to delete it, or we're gonna give you a certain amount of time to delete it, or they will delete it themselves. So freedom of speech is not free. You know how I mean? And then it's even to the point like this. We had some shows. And you can go back and look. We had a show when you was on, all three of you was on, and then we also had brother Sister Maritza on, and we had a brother William Guzman on, and we had that spread it like wildfire. That was a big conversation going on in the community. We had like almost 3,000 views on that. Not that we do this for views. If you go look now, they changed it. Now you got 10 views. Some of the information that you was talking is cut, split. It's amazing. And as a matter of fact, I would show it to you. I would record it, and then I'll send it to you all. Especially, Dion, when you were speaking and you were talking about the 12 tribes of Israel. And that thing got cut, slit, and it was amazing.
But Kashem, to your point though, that's what it is. Like, no matter what goes down, if they were to cut your show, right, you could hold your show in your living room. You could hold your show outside. See, we become so dependent and so programmed to believe that we need these groups of individuals, and it's not so. Like I've done it. I've like what the N1 mixtape did. And when I was in those offices with the NBA, I was sitting with the commission and stuff like that. I'm not talking just to be talking. Like I truly understand what this thing is. Like I know how money is generated, or what they call money. I know why people that look like you and I can't get along, because we're not the same. That's why it don't work like that. These people that came here, they're under a banner called white. You have a lot of brothers and sisters over here. Yo, it's like they benefit. Like Shaquille O'Neal benefits from this stuff.
Absolutely. Of course. Like Marv said, he was picked. Understand?
They benefit. So I wouldn't even worry about these cats like that. Like that's your opposition. That's your oppressor. That's an oppressor.
In terms of its importance, our response to that, our collective response as a community is important to people who look like us, who sell us out, and even to this white community that's doing what they're trying to do to our brother. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the show, because it's important for us to give a strong response and to uphold those who are trying to do the right thing, to let them know they're not by themselves.
And Q, let me say,
not every Caucasian is bad. Like not every Caucasian.
Oh, no, absolutely right.
You'll be a damned fool to say that. But let me say this. We gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta go.
Thanks, my brother.
Thank you. But everything we talked about was in terms of power structures anyway, not necessarily individuals. So this white power structure.
But let me say this though, Q, on my way out, let me say this to you, bro, about what you said. I truly believe that it gets to a point where you need to start breaking away and creating your own. But my thing would be, you can't cut away from them and go back to them. You understand what I'm saying? I don't see that. If I'm gonna break away from you because of disparaging the total blatant disrespect that you have upon us, and we decide as a collective to break away, we're not gonna break away just to go back to you to negotiate for the same thing to happen later on. Nah, if we're gonna stay within the confinement of doing our own, then let's do it. But you gotta be really about it. I mean, you
gotta remember, Kasem, you gotta remember this though. When you're doing this weed breakaway, remember that weed breaking away, Shaquille O'Neal gonna come, Michael Jordan's gonna come.
Yeah, but
see, we don't separate these cats like that. We supposed to be like,
thing called ostracization, where they have to be ostracized. Point blank. Period.
Exactly.
I mean, they did it in Penn. They did in all the movements. It has to happen. But at the same time, there was those who said that they was against Shaq too, and they stood on the same lines. And then later on, you come to find out that they're snakes as well. You know what I mean? Yep. So, but
everybody can't be on the Underground Railroad.
We don't understand that this happened with Kaepernick, like Brother Mark talked about, and all that. A lot of people still. I don't even watch it no more. But there's people who still involve themselves around it. But I think that maybe this time with this Kyrie thing, the way that they done it is bringing more people together intellectually, collectively, to say, you know, wait a minute, enough is enough. Because unfortunately, you know, we've been through some stuff, man, and people still still be on the side of the opposition. You know what I mean? Because you look, like Marv said, there's people who never even seen the movie. There's people who never even read the book that's taking sides with the opposition, and they never even read the book.
Right. Yep.
This is why I'm not talking so much on it.
2 years ago.
Yeah,
that's what 2 years ago.
I was going to say, I just think that the problem with what we're talking about is that if think about the movements of the 60s that Sister Lisa talked about, when the stuff hit the fan, they were already organized. If your organization is based on these events that pop up so often and you're not already organized, then it's not going to go that far. Look, the Montgomery bus boycott, they were organized. They were organizing for years before, there were plenty of people before Rosa, but before Rosa, sat down on a particular bus.
Right.
That's why you can go from a Thursday to a Friday to a Sunday to nobody on the bus is Monday, because they were that organized.
How did it fall? How did it fall?
We need to start.
How did all of those organizations fall? I don't care how organized. How did it fall?
They didn't. They were
Black Panther Party. Black Panther Party.
Oh, no. I'm talking about the Montgomery bus boycott didn't fall. They had an objective. They achieved that particular objective.
But the objective was all wrong. How do you go from having your own buses, transportation, and everything? You had your own bus.
Right.
You go to somebody else's bus on the back of their bus to move to the front of their bus.
Absolutely.
And you had your own bus.
I got you. But now you're in my wheelhouse.
Right.
What we see, the problem is that the masses of Black folks were not trying to integrate. They were trying to desegregate, because those are particularly the laws of the land, as you ultimately talked about before. What we have to understand is that those bus systems that were in operation weren't to the particular level where they ultimately needed to be. They weren't. Those businesses that you're talking about, you go back and look at them and pull them up, weren't to the particular level that they ultimately needed to be to sustain us for the long haul. They weren't. I'm doing the history right now. You go look at it. They were not.
Now we're gonna let the sister say something and close in. After that, we got to go.
Right. I want to say this about the Montgomery bus boycott, because I think it's important. Because it was not just about that they wanted to sit on the front of a bus. They were being brutalized on them buses. They were being so disrespected.
Keep freezing.
Sister, you keep freezing.
Set up with it. Like there was Claudette Colvin was one of the first ones to plead not guilty. When they arrested her, she said, "I'm not guilty." You had somebody else. You had many people, and they were all sitting in the areas that were designated for Black people to be sitting. But they were so sick and tired of being abused. If they were sitting, they would be sitting in the designated area. And then somebody white would come along, and if there wasn't a seat in the area for white people, they could make them get up. You couldn't sit in the same room.
The question becomes, whose bus was it? Yeah, I would tell you to get up.
No, I want to clarify that up. It wasn't about sitting in the front. They were tired of being abused. I just wanted to clarify that up. I think that's important.
Information is free. It's what you do with it that costs. Read, study, and research.
We understand that we have to build, our system. Sometimes you got to start where we are. But I just want to clarify that up. It wasn't about that they wanted to about sitting in the front or the back. But they were so sick of being abused. And because that would happen all the time. People would get raped. They would do all kinds of things to them on them buses. So
now, thank you all.
Right.
I thank you all. Because this continue going, but I have some other obligations I have to fulfill.
You be starting these conversations getting us wound up.
It's okay, because we'll be back. If the universe allows, we will be back.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you all. Thank you, Sister Lisa, the Queen.
Thank your audience too, man. Your audience was great.
Thank you, Brother Mar. Appreciate you very much.
All to everybody, absolutely.
We ask everyone.
Rob.
Oh, peace to all of y'all. Listen, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Now listen, on your way going out. Come on, Sister Lisa, you're on your way going out. You have some words for the audience?
Uhuru, Black Liberation Now. Let's organize. We can do this. We have always been our own liberators. Uhuru.
Brother Q.
Yo, just tap into self, man. The higher power is within you. I'm always promote and push the true and living God. Like without the true and living God, none of this means anything.
Brother Marv.
Organize, organize, organize. As Frederick Douglass said, that's it. Organize.
Me to you all. Stay focused.
Kyrie, we got you.
More collectiveness and less emotions. With that being said, peace, light, love, and to you all, brother, Sister Lee. Peace and blessings. Thanks for joining us, brother Marv, my cousin. You know I'll be tapping to you. Peace and blessings for tuning in. Love you, brother. We'll talk again.
Peace.
Brother Q. Brother. You know
no
we
doubt.
go,
No, it's passionate for me, bro.
You know how we go. But Q, when I'm gonna bring you back on, I'm gonna speak to you. Not tonight because I gotta go, but I'm gonna speak to you tomorrow. I want to bring you on about the fashion industry, how you get started. I want to have a conversation about that because there's a lot of people trying to tap into some stuff. You have all the information, man.
Man, I haven't been there in a while, but I do remember some of this stuff.
You talked about the N1. I didn't want to mention that because I wanted to bring it on the pot, later on the show. I didn't even want to mention that yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I was so I was like when I tell you I understand this stuff, man, like I'm passionate about it. I understand it. I was talking to Luke before about the Negro League and starting up our own baseball situation. Like there's a lot of brothers and sisters, man, that are really about that. But when you put in the defeatist attitude right away, like that's where it don't manifest. You know what I'm saying? Because like you could do all of this stuff, man. Like you could just rent out gyms and stuff like that. People will pay. People will come. Like you know how many parks that we have where people just pay or just want to come see a brother play some ball. We don't need these cats like that. We don't need them.
And this is all open for another discussion, brother.
Yeah. No
Shalom.
doubt.
We will definitely speak, but I'll give you a call. All right, peace, brother.
No doubt.
Shalom.
All right. Shalom.
Oh my, got so big. How do I know what this happened before? My whole screen went super big. Hold on. Went hard to how do I navigate around this? Get off. So peace and blessings to you all. I had a little technical difficulty, but we back. Listen, I need you all to please tune in to Real Talk with Kasem. This is what's going on. Wednesdays is called the Dry Bone section, where we have different panel discussions, different interviews and things of that nature, which comes on at 8 o'clock. Then we have open discussion with my co-host, Just Figueroa. That'll be on Wednesdays. That'll be on Saturdays at 1 p.m. We need you all to tune in. And I also need you, if you are within inside the city of Passaic on Fridays and Saturdays, we need you to go to Will Scott Street, to Enki's Kitchen, where we got Brother Steven, Brother Enki, which is Brother Mark Giles, and Brother Steve Washington, from 12 to 7:30. They have ribs, fish, salad, tuna salad, macaroni salad, chicken. And they need you all to come on out. They need your support. So please come on out every Friday and Saturday from 12 noon until 7:30 p.m. That's every Friday and Saturday. That's at 15 Will Scott Street in Passaic, New Jersey. That's 15 Will Scott Street in Passaic, New Jersey, from 12 in the afternoon, 12 p.m. until 7:30 p.m. Please come on out and support Enki's Kitchen. We got Brother Mark Giles Sr. and Brother Steve Washington. Like I said, they have chicken, they have fish, they have ribs, they have all different types of macaroni salad and also fries. And you get a free drink with it. So please come on out and support those brothers. Enki's Kitchen at 15 Will Scott Street every Friday and Saturday. with that being said, remember, free yourself so you can see yourself. And when you see yourself, you can be yourself. Peace, light, love, and liberation. And join back in with Real Talk with Kasim. That's every Wednesday at 8 p.m., the Dry Bones section. And then every Saturday, open discussion, my co-host Just. That's Saturdays at 1 p.m. Peace, light, love, and liberation to you all.